In the summer of 2020, Amy Roloff walked out of the farmhouse she had lived in for over 30 years. She had raised 4 children in that house. She had welcomed her first grandchildren in that house. She had celebrated Christmases, birthdays, and Thanksgivings in that house. She had also gone through her divorce in that house. She had watched her marriage end from the same kitchen where she had once cooked family meals. She had signed the paperwork that transferred her portion of Roloff Farms to her ex-husband Matt for $975,000. And she had, in return, received the freedom to start a completely new chapter of her life. Amy took her $975,000 and, with the help of her then-boyfriend and current husband Chris Merrick, purchased a new home in Hillsboro, Oregon, a 4-bedroom home, approximately $600,000, just 15 minutes from Roloff Farms. Close enough to visit her grandchildren whenever she wanted, far enough to have her own life away from her ex-husband and his fiancée at the time, Karen Chandler. That house has become, in the years since, the physical setting for Amy Roloff's second life. Her marriage to Chris Merrick, her grandmother duties, her cooking business, her podcast appearances, her writing, her advocacy work, her quiet daily existence with the man she has been happily married to since 2021. Tonight on LPBW Update, we are walking through the full story of Amy Roloff and Chris Merrick's home, where it is, what it looks like, what features Amy specifically requested, the famous grandma room, the waterfall pond, the fitness room with the speed bag and treadmill, the changes Amy made to make the home accessible for her short stature, the way Amy and Chris have integrated their lives in that space, and importantly, why Amy and Chris are still actively looking for their forever home even after 5 years in this one. Because Amy Roloff's home is not just a house. It is the symbol of her post-divorce reinvention, and its story deserves to be told properly. Let us start with the transition itself. In 2020, when Amy sold her portion of Roloff Farms to Matt, she was 58 years old. She had been living on the farm since 1990, when she and Matt had first bought the property together. 30 years. That is a full generation of her life spent on that specific piece of Oregon land. Leaving it was not easy. Amy has been open about how difficult the decision was. In a March 2021 episode of Little People Big World, she said, "It is not easy to live about 500 feet from your ex. This property has been my home for 30 years, so it is going to be hard to suddenly pick up, leave, and move on." She acknowledged that she did not have regrets about making the decision to sell, but she also said, "I do not want to be here and have it be a constant reminder of what I had, what I do not have now." That is a mature, thoughtful, honest statement. Amy understood that leaving the farm was the right choice for her mental and emotional health. She just also knew it would be painful. And it was. The buyout amount, $975,000, gave Amy the financial flexibility to buy her own home. That was the money that had come from her share of the farm. That was the payment for 30 years of building the property with Matt. That was the compensation for walking away from the place where she had raised her children. Amy took the money and, with Chris Merrick by her side, began house hunting in the Hillsboro area. Hillsboro is where she had lived for most of her adult life. It made sense to stay close by. She had friends in the area. Her adult children had homes in Oregon. Her grandchildren were within driving distance. She could keep visiting them regularly without having to relocate to a completely different part of the state. Chris Merrick was, of course, uniquely positioned to help Amy find a home. He is a licensed real estate agent with more than 20 years of experience in the Portland metropolitan area. His expertise in the local housing market meant that Amy could rely on him to identify good properties, evaluate offers, and negotiate purchases. That kind of built-in real estate advisor is a luxury that most home buyers do not have. Amy had it, and Chris used his professional skills to help her find exactly the right house. The home they chose was in Hillsboro, approximately 15 minutes from Roloff Farms. Perfect location, close enough to visit her grandchildren easily, far enough to have her own life. The purchase price was reported at around $600,000. though the exact figure has not been extensively publicized. The house itself was, and remains, a beautiful example of comfortable Pacific Northwest suburban living. 4 bedrooms, open floor plan, roomy kitchen, master suite with a walk-in closet, double sinks, and a jetted bathtub, dedicated fitness room, backyard with a waterfall pond, and, most importantly for Amy, a specific room designated as the grandma room, or in Amy's family, the Mimi room. That room was set up specifically for Amy's grandchildren. It had toys, it had books, it had colors, it had a bed for sleepovers. It was Amy's declaration, through interior design, that she was going to be a fully present grandmother in this new chapter of her life. Whatever else the house was going to be, it was going to be a place where her grandchildren felt welcomed, loved, and important. The accessibility modifications for Amy were extensive. Amy has achondroplasia. She is 4 feet and 2 inches tall. Standard homes are not built for her body. When Amy moved into the new house, she and Chris made significant modifications to make it functional for her. Counters were lowered where needed. Certain fixtures were relocated. The kitchen was set up in a way that Amy could actually use it, given her cooking business and her passion for baking. Amy has been open about how important these modifications were. She has said in interviews that a home that is not accessible to your body is a home you cannot fully enjoy. She wanted to enjoy her home. She modified it accordingly. And the result was a home that fit her, unlike so many homes in America that force short-statured people to accommodate to spaces that were not designed for them. The fitness room is one of the most interesting features of the home, in the sense that it reflects Amy's values. She is committed to staying active. She has, throughout her life, prioritized physical health. The fitness room includes a speed bag, which is a boxing training tool that requires precision, timing, and coordination. It also includes a treadmill. Amy uses these regularly. She has spoken about the importance of exercise for people with dwarfism, who often face additional challenges with joint pain, mobility, and orthopedic health. Having a fitness room in her own home meant she could work out on her own schedule without needing to go to a gym that might not be accessible. The waterfall pond in the backyard is one of the most beautiful features of the home. Amy has posted photos of it multiple times over the years. It is a genuine backyard water feature, with the sound of running water, plantings around it, and the kind of natural beauty that makes a backyard feel like an oasis. Amy has said the pond is calming. She likes to sit near it when she wants to think or relax. It is one of the elements of the home that made the space feel like her own, distinct from the farm she had left behind. The famous grandma room has been the setting for some of the most touching moments in the show's later seasons. In a June 2022 episode, Amy hosted her first grandson, Jackson Roloff, for a playdate. The two of them played shuffleboard together. They colored together. They enjoyed the space Amy had built specifically for him and for his cousins. Amy said on the show, "I try and have my grandkids, Jackson, have a good time at my house because they are at Mimi's house and it is a very short time. So I want to make it fun. I want to make it special. And it made me feel good that he had the best Mimi in the world." That is what the grandma room was for. Not just for photos, not just for social media, for actual lived-in grandparent-grandchild time. And Amy has used it that way over and over since she moved in. Chris Merrick moved into the home with Amy in the year or so after she purchased it. They were dating at that point, with an eventual engagement in September of 2019 and marriage in August of 2021. The home became their shared space. Chris added his own personal touches to certain rooms, his office, his fitness equipment, his workshop area. But the home was, in its overall design and feel, primarily Amy's. She had chosen it. She had modified it. She had shaped it to fit her needs and her personality. Chris was joining her space, in a way. And that dynamic has continued through their marriage. Amy is at home in this home. Chris is at home with Amy. Now, one of the interesting recent developments is that Amy and Chris have been publicly considering upsizing. In October of 2022, Amy teased on her Instagram stories that she and Chris had plans to move eventually. When a fan asked if she would ever want to move to have more or bigger property, Amy replied, "Chris and I would love to, in a couple more years." Then, in a January 2023 Instagram Live, Amy elaborated, "Eventually, Chris and I will continue to look to see if we ever do find a place that we would like to move to," she said. "A little bigger property or a little bigger space. I mentioned that before, so yeah, who knows?" Most notably, in a 2024 episode of Little People, Big World, Amy and Chris toured a 10,000 square foot house in Oregon that Chris considered a potential dream retirement home. The house had a 6-car garage. It was massive. Chris saw it as both a home and a potential business opportunity for hosting events. Amy was more skeptical. She acknowledged that the property was outside their budget. She said, "10,000 square feet is big. I think the big house at the farm is a little over 5,000 square feet. And I thought the farmhouse was plenty of space as well." 10,000 square feet, in other words, was twice the size of the farmhouse Amy had lived in for 30 years. It was excessive. It was more than they needed. But Chris was drawn to the idea of a bigger space, a legacy property, a home that could be theirs and could also host retreats or gatherings. The dream retirement house Amy and Chris toured has not, as of this recording, been purchased. Amy and Chris have continued to live in their current home. They are still, in Amy's words, actively watching. They are waiting for the right property at the right price at the right time. Whether they will actually make a move remains uncertain. Amy has mixed feelings. She loves her current home. She has made it hers. She has built it into the fullness of her second life vision. Moving would mean starting over in some ways. But Chris is drawn to bigger spaces and bigger opportunities. And Amy, as she has said in interviews, is open to the possibility. There is also the question of location. Zach and Tori Roloff live in Battleground, Washington, about a 2-hour drive north of the current home. Tori has said publicly that she would love for Amy to move closer to them so that Amy could be more involved in Jackson, Lila, and Josiah's daily lives. Amy has not seriously considered a Washington move, but the idea has been floated. If Amy and Chris were to relocate, would they stay in Oregon, or would they move to Washington to be near Zach's family, or to Arizona to be near warmer weather? The options are open. The decisions have not been made. What is certain is that Amy and Chris have built a genuinely happy life in their current home. Amy's Instagram is full of photos from the property, the pond, the porch, the kitchen, the living room, Chris in his everyday casual style, Amy laughing at something he has said, the grandchildren visiting, meals shared, holidays celebrated, life happening. That home has been the container for one of the most successful second marriages in recent reality television history. Whether Amy and Chris eventually move to a bigger place or stay where they are, the current home will always be significant to their story. It is where Amy proved to herself that she could build a life beyond her marriage to Matt. It is where she proved to Chris that she was fully committed to their future together. And it is where she has become, in her 60s, the grandmother, wife, and public figure she was always meant to be. Compare Amy's Oregon home to Matt and Karen's Arizona home, and you see two very different life visions. Matt and Karen had a smaller vacation home that was supposed to become their forever home, but never fully did. Amy and Chris had a mid-sized primary home that has been their forever home from the beginning of their relationship. Matt and Karen had a getaway. Amy and Chris had a foundation. That difference, in retrospect, tells us something about why Amy's marriage has worked and Matt's engagement did not. Amy and Chris built together. They committed to a space together. They made the same home their home from day one. Matt and Karen maintained two separate homes, an Arizona vacation home and Matt's Oregon farm operations, without ever fully merging their lives. The absence of a single shared forever home was, in some ways, symbolic of the absence of a fully merged relationship. Amy and Chris did the work. They built the space, they live in it every day, and their marriage has thrived in that space. Looking at Amy and Chris in 2026 in their Hillsborough home, they are approaching their 5th wedding anniversary in August. They are still actively considering whether to move to a larger home. They are still hosting grandchildren regularly in the grandma room. Amy is still cooking in the accessible kitchen. Chris is still helping with the maintenance and management of the property. They are, by every visible measure, living the second life vision Amy had when she left Roloff Farms in 2020. Whatever comes next, whether they move or stay, whether they simplify or expand, whether they change addresses or stay put, the current home will always be where the second chapter of Amy Roloff's life became real. So I want to know what you think. Do you think Amy Roloff should move to a bigger home in her retirement? Or is her current place perfect? Do you think Chris Merrick's real estate expertise has helped Amy make smart decisions about her home purchases? And do you think Amy will eventually consider moving to Washington to be closer to Zach and Tori and the grandchildren there? Or do you think she will stay near Roloff Farms for the foreseeable future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and I love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to LPBW Update, and ring the bell so you do not miss our weekly Roloff family stories. We are committed to bringing you the truth, the timeline, and the heart of every member of this remarkable family. I will see you on the next one.